Good evening. I'm Dr. Gus Penix, President of the Nicholas County Board of Education. I'd like to call this regularly scheduled March the 1st, 2021 meeting of the Board of Education to order at this time. Would you please rise and join the board in a moment of silent reflection? It gives us opportunity to reflect on those things for which we have to be thankful, but also to clear our hearts and minds for the business we're going to talk about here tonight. Also ask that you have remember especially the Spencer family and the loss of their loved one yesterday, and that's Mrs. Kaufman's sister-in-law, so please remember that family. So a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Would you please join the board in saluting our country with the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. The first item of business this evening, electronically you received the minutes for the meeting held on February the 15th, 2021. You've had opportunity to look them over. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for the meeting held on February 15th, 2021? Mrs. Kaufman moves. Is there a second to the motion? Second. Mr. Amick seconds. Any further discussion in regard to the minutes for the meeting held on February the 15th, 2021? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Madam Secretary, the motion passes unanimously. We have no recognitions for this evening. We're on item 5 of this evening's agenda. Item A is Nicholas County Youth Wrestling request continuation of the lease with the Nicholas County Board of Education for the old Canvas grade school building. We have with us Scott Holcomb, Danny Crislip, Chris Hanshaw, and Freddie Seabold. You all have asked to present to the board, and so if you would care to come up to the podium. If you would state your name and just go ahead and begin.
Okay. Good evening, members of the board, superintendent. I'd like to start out introducing myself. My name is Scott Holcomb, and I'm the president of Nicholas County Youth Wrestling. Just to give you guys a quick overview of the program and the origination of it. Going back as far as most of our high school wrestling careers, it didn't take long to realize when you get out on that mat that we were at a significant disadvantage. A lot of the schools in the states were starting kids out at 4, 5, 6 years old. We didn't get exposed to wrestling until either middle school or possibly even as late as high school. So with that mindset in place, Rick Leggett, he is still an existing board member, is one of the original founders of Nicholas County Youth Wrestling Organization. Since that year, the program has survived primarily on fundraisers, with the biggest fundraiser being the David Heitz Memorial Wrestling Tournament. And David Heitz was a wrestling coach here at Nicholas County High School as well. The David Heitz tournament is ran primarily from existing coaches, previous coaches, board members, parents, and with the help of the high school wrestlers. Now, as part of that, the high school wrestlers put down the mats, they help us pick up the mats, run the score tables, and so for their efforts, the youth organization makes donations back to the high school wrestling programs. For the most part, we have anywhere from 15 to 60 wrestlers every year. And that covers the entire county from every elementary school in the county. I've made note of several standouts. One of the initial kids that worked his way up through the program was Travis Farrell. And he ended up second in the states for Nicholas County High School. Another kid that worked his way up through the program is Logan Brown. He finished second in the state for Richwood High School. And just last year, there were 2 runner-ups in the state, and that was Levi Brake and Jacob Williams. So the things that we had encountered or ran into as we were working to develop this program was practice facilities. And prior to the Kansas Elementary School being available to us, we would practice up behind in the mezzanine area at the Nicholas County High School. And there would be some conflicts, during basketball games, they would pull the bleachers back and it would take up the practice area. Some snow days, and then the big one is right at the end of your wrestling season. It would be 3 to 4 weeks longer than a high school wrestling season. That practice area would be repurposed, I believe it's for spring softball. So the team was driving as far as to Raynell, Greenbrier West, to practice every evening, just so that the kids would have a place to practice going into their state, the youth states. So once we saw what Greenbrier West had, that was our goal. We need to find a place that's affordable for a small nonprofit organization to hold practices and develop our program. And with luck and perfect timing, that's about the time that the Ruritan group decided not to renew the lease and the property become available to lease. Now, once we secured the lease, one of our intentions was we also wanted to keep the property available to the community. And even if you go out and look at our signs now, it says Nicholas County Youth Wrestling and Community Center. And we have done just that. Just to give you a couple examples that we've rented out, there's been family reunions, birthday parties, wedding receptions, softball tournaments, tent revivals. The Ward Road Free Will Baptist Church holds dinners, Easter egg hunts, fundraisers. We currently even host another church on a regular basis. They have rented use of the facilities on Wednesday evenings and Sunday mornings. And we've also given them use of the property on weekends. They play music, have bereavement dinners, and even store their utility trailer at no additional cost to the original lease. Now there's also been other uses to the community at no charge. We've had high school, but both high schools have wrestled there during the summer, practiced during the summer. Both middle schools, wrestling camps, softball, basketball practice, softball and baseball practices, sorry. Little Bears football, Boy Scouts, majorettes, bereavement dinners, all types of sort, and that has been at no cost. The one thing that I would like to jump back and just give you you guys an idea of our thoughts with the program and where our objectives with it. I'd like to read to you the mission statement that's in our bylaws. It says, the Nicholas County Youth Wrestling Organization is committed to bringing children to a high level of achievement on the mat and off, to develop positive concepts, to enhance social and emotional growth, to cultivate strengths and talents in a supportive environment where wrestlers learn the rewards of hard work, the value of good sportsmanship, the virtues of discipline, the lessons of fairness, the joys of winning, and dealing with losing. And finally, to learn their responsibilities as members of a team and their community, wherever they may be. So one last thing I have is, as you guys make your decision as to what you think would be best to do with the property, one concern to us and probably many in the communities, once it would go out for auction, it's hard to tell what that property may become. It could become a convenience store, it could become a housing development, it could become a church, it could become, a trailer park, who knows? But the one thing that I would be certain of is that if this would happen, that the property would not be as readily available to the community or to youth athletics in general. So that's one thing I would like for you guys to keep in mind. Does anybody have any questions for me, or we can come back after you hear what these gentlemen have?
Okay. Why don't we go ahead and hear them, and then we'll formulate any questions.
That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Hanshaw. I'm the head coach. I'm not on the board of Nicholas County Youth Wrestling, but I do oversee the day-to-day uses. And I maintain the schedule of the facility as it's been leased out. I do want to say that we have never turned down anybody to use the facility for any reason other than it's already scheduled. So I just would like to say that we have given back. We give back in a lot of ways. We've supported other youth organizations. We've supported our 3-on-3. Nicholas County Board used to require $1 million insurance policy to use its facilities. We've used our insurance policy to allow the 3-on-3 Paul Nettles tournament to happen at our facilities. That gave scholarships to kids on both sides of the county. And I do want to make it known that whenever the Rortons relinquished their lease on the facility, at that time the Nicholas County Board did ask for public interest. And at that time, 2 organizations showed interest. That was Nicholas County Youth Wrestling and Ward Road Free Will Baptist Church. And that's why I asked Mr. Seabolt to be here, is to say that that's factual. And then they wanted to use it for a fellowship hall, for Easter egg hunts, for ramp dinners, for all their events. They don't have a fellowship hall that I'm aware of at their church. And they said as long as they had access to it, the same as they did when the Rortons had it, then they would be glad to let us have the lease. So that's how the agreement occurred, that we got the lease. So it was offered to the public, and that was resolved in that manner and approved in board minutes. We used the facility for wrestling practice approximately 3 months. 2020, we haven't yet. We're going to actually start 2021. Nicholas County Youth Wrestling will be starting practice tomorrow night. And so it's a late kickoff. The governor has eased off on restrictions, so we'll be having practice there on Tuesdays and Thursdays again, with hopes just to get kids back out a little bit. I've had a lot of parents, a lot of kids say they want to continue on. So while I'm here, I'll hit our, because I've done a lot of the renovations and the facility upkeep. While we've been there, it's been 5 years. I think it was November of 2015 when we obtained the lease. We had a massive water leak between the meter and the building. We replaced that whole water line. Not long after we took it over from the Rortons, the bathroom floors were rotten, and some poor fella, while he was doing his business, the commode fell through the floor. That was very unfortunate. So we replaced all the floors, renovated those, new flooring. Every year it has the old tile flooring. We strip and wax those every year in the cafeteria. We painted the whole outside of the building, painted all the cafeteria, replaced ceiling tiles, and we've changed over, as all of our light fixtures, there was the old T12 bulbs. We've changed those over to LED, trying to make it more efficient, brighter. Repaired heaters, the baseball field, and thanks to Wayne Young and the Summersville Youth Athletics, we've purchased not quite $2,000 worth of wall padding to go around the wall to protect the kids from falling into the walls. So that was a blessing. We couldn't have done it without them. Future maintenance projects, the one we've been working on, and I forgot I was going to provide you guys a quote just to show you that we've been working on it. But I'd like to get new HVAC because it currently has just an old window air conditioner unit. It's expensive to operate and inadequate. It was what we inherited with the building. And the heaters are just those really old Resonor heaters, and they are very expensive to operate, very inefficient, and they're loud. So I've been working on getting central heating and air put in there. We've had a donation from Mr. Steve Ferguson and his family to help us with that. So we're not quite there yet. That's about a $11,000 endeavor. So for a small organization, it takes a little bit of time to have dinners and have wrestling meets, which we didn't get to have this year. So that cut down on our ability to make some money this year. So in the next 2 to 3 years, I hope to replace the roof. It hasn't been touched since the school gave it out for lease. So it's rather aging. So I'd like to get a metal roof put on there before long. I like to do some stuff with the kids, that put some batting cages in out there, give them a place to go. Even right now at Nicholas County High School, you have a high school baseball team and a middle school softball team trying to hit in the same cages in the mezzanine, and that's just not very efficient for them. It would alleviate that problem as well. A golf net to hit into, just for people to come out and we don't have a driving range around here. We could give them a little help there. And the siding on the eaves is old wood. I'd like to replace that at the same time as the roof. And the entry doors are rather aged, and they need a little work. So that's Nicholas County Youth Wrestling has been 100% responsible for the maintenance of the facility. We mow the grass, anything that is needed, we've done. So, do you have any questions about our lease or the facility? Or did you want to say anything? That's not good. Gotta look at that while you talk.
You all, thank you for coming to see me before you, Lord, and my number one jailbird over there. You all, I hope you don't do away with the community building. It's been so good for the whole community. We use it for a lot of things. They have birthday parties, they have marriages out there, they have a lot of things. And if you do away with that, they have nowhere to go. And so I hope when you think this thing over, that you will think about the community. That's what it's all for anyway, and the kids. You'll see kids out there playing basketball and soccer and softball all the time. So I hope you think about this stuff before you take it away from it, if you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Danny Crystal. I'm the treasurer of the organization. I've been in it since 2005. 1 year after it started, my son went all the way through the youth team, middle school and high school team, and I've been on the board since startup. I've been a treasurer for the most part. Okay, so I'll just give you a little update here on some of the costs we have and what it takes to maintain the building. So, going teaching the youth of Nicholas County the skills to wrestle and life character lessons that sport teaches them to succeed in life. The cause is the community center open and give back. Well, we believe to do this in many ways, like Chris talked about, sponsoring the Paul Nettles 3-3 tournament. It's a good tournament, give scholarships. We let fundraiser events happen or facility for free or reduced cost. Having said that, our community center does give back. In order to keep the facility running, we need to maintain at least $8,000 in our account. And one of the reasons is that to put on the tournament, the David Hype's Youth Wrestling Tournament, which is our biggest fundraiser, you need $5,000 in upfront cost. With that being said, you need $1,400 in refs, you need about $1,000 for the armory to use for the weekend and the trophies. Youth wrestlers, we have about $3,500 in trophies. So we need to keep at least, $5,000 up front for the tournament. And like Chris mentioned, due to the pandemic, we didn't have an tournament this year. The minimum operating cost to keep the facility open, utilities, generally utilities run about $5,000. All right, $2,700 a year in propane. The building is a cinder block building. All right, it's set up on a timer, and we got a lot of warm up, for a few hours where teams come in or whoever's using the building. So that's a big expense. It's propane, with the central air, the HVAC system that would help alleviate some of that. Power bills $1,440 a year. Water bills approximately $630. Each year we get the floor waxed. It's a $500 cost to get the floor waxed. Kitchen cleanup supplies, and we have to buy mat tapes for when we roll the mats out so they don't come apart. It's about $150 a year, kitchen supplies. So, and some more information. Due to COVID, we did not rent it to the general public as much. Obviously, in 2019, we did, in addition to our tournament, we did receive $3,600 from renting it out. All right, it goes back, obviously, to our account. And 2020 was a little down year. It was $1,950 to the public. Okay, so it was a little down. We did get a little bit, additional from the church this year to kind of alleviate not having a tournament. So generally, we run around $8,000, consistently in our account. So that's where we like to keep it. So. So that's about all I got on the treasury part of the filing. If y'all got any questions or anything, it's
Going to open the board for any questions to any of the speakers.
I'll jump in and say I attached, it was stated that there was no property in Kansas available. And so I attached 2 pieces of commercial property that are available and have signs up that they are for sale in the Kansas area. So we wasn't, as an organization, we wasn't made aware that they was going to ask you guys to sell the property, or maybe we could have helped them find some, so that both of us could serve the community at the same time. That would make for a better community, I believe.
Are those 2 pieces of property close together there?
Yeah, the Happy Handy store is right beside the Greenfield Estates, and all the front end, from talking to the residents of the Greenfield Estates, all that property by the road is commercial property.
Where are you going to have the next ramp dinner?
Yeah, that's what we want to know.
I turned my head very quickly because I'm not sure that I could pull off such the feat that their church does. They do an amazing job. That's the church that has done that for years. So I think we had we considered it last year, but it's not been easy to find ramps lately. So I hope soon, because I'm ready for it.
Is all the property used almost all the time? Is it open to the community in case someone comes in and it hasn't been rented, then the
Sure.
outside's available?
Sure, yeah, there's people there that go play basketball all the time. There's always, if you look, there's pretty much, most of the time in the spring, there's a father-daughter, father-son pitching using, so it is open campus. The only thing that you get when you reserve the property is the right that it's yours. You can ask people not to be there. So, but it's never closed to anybody unless it's leased. But I feel like if somebody leases the property, then they've leased the property. I think it's very affordable for just the cafeteria. For a birthday party, it's $75 for all day. It's not just 2 hours. You have that whole facility all day for $75.
He's getting high, you walk just like gas.
Yeah. Yeah, even though that was the exact same price the Rorkins leased it for, I'm getting high. So, I will say, I believe that having the church has lessened the availability to the community. We've had family reunions that have canceled on us because they can't prepare their food there on Sundays. But we we obviously want everybody to have a home that doesn't have a home. They came to us in a time of need. They didn't have a place to worship, and so we readily made it available to them. I think we've definitely more than fulfilled our obligations to them. So they I feel like kind of made the complaint that they didn't use it on Wednesdays. It's been made available to them every Wednesday. I can't control if they use it or not. But
Do you have any trouble with vandalism?
I've had the building, back side of the building painted one time. I have found people camping back there. Some guy on a motorcycle decided to put a tent back there one time. But you know, we don't, knock on wood, we've never been broken into or anything like that. We've got $6,000 worth of wrestling mats inside. And
Well, it sounds like you have a lot of eyes.
yeah, we got the best eyes there are right across the road. They live right across the road, and I get calls and they'll say, hey, there's somebody over there, so we'll run out and check it. It is a full-time job taking care of a facility. Last year, I myself personally bought a zero-turn mower to help. It's about 5 hours of mowing. But do we use all the property? I won't say that we use all of it every day, but during baseball season, yes, there is a team practicing on the field, and there's a team practicing by the parking lot. That's where the Boy Scouts have set off their rockets. That's where the soccer's practices in the front fields and not in the baseball fields. That's where football's practiced. So I won't say we use 100% of the property all the time, but it is used.
All these repairs and renovations, is that in addition to your budget? Is that extra?
Yes.
And you have to pay for all that through fundraisers or something?
Yeah, it is not, on a typical year, it is not a self-sustaining facility. In 2019, we brought in 3,600 in rentals and just bills, not counting any grass mowing. I think you said it was propane, water, and power was close to $5,000. So our wrestling team does kick in above and beyond and support the facility.
So you make this available to anybody who wants to lease it at any point in time? The only time that you don't make it available to somebody is if somebody else has it?
Yes, that's correct.
So,
Currently, our high school wrestling team, you guys approved the MOU there, so they're practicing there 5 days a week. Yeah, so if it's not leased, and that was one accommodation we made for the church that's using it, is if it's not leased, then you may use it and make it your own until you find you a place, which is the way they approached me when they came there was, this is our temporary home until we find a place. And as we welcomed with open arms and accommodate them and let them practice music there nearly every Friday or Saturday night, have bereavement dinners as needed, and nothing is additional to their contract. We've allowed them to use it much more than they're agreed on.
so the church uses it on Sundays, Sunday morning,
Yes.
Sunday evening,
No.
Wednesday evening?
Wednesday evening. Our lease was for Wednesday evening and Sunday mornings.
Well, it sounds like you all have managed it well and made a lot of use of it. Good use.
We just want to give back. There's not a lot of things for the youth to do in the area. You can't, in baseball season, you can't find an open baseball field to practice. And so we've worked, Mr. Rodney LaRoe's made a donation to help us fix that field up a little bit. Appreciate that. There's a lot of hands and, you know, it takes a community to keep it going.
Any other questions for the presenters? Well, I think we're scheduled the next board meeting on the 15th of March to discuss if we're going to do anything with the property. And is that correct, Madam Superintendent? Yes. So that's on the agenda for the 15th.
Okay.
We appreciate this presentation, and I think you've been very clear. I mean, we see everything that you're doing for the community, but not only that, but however it appear to be taking care of the facility. And so with your future plans to make some other improvements. So we'll be deliberating that, I guess, next board meeting, and then we'll have a decision and you're certainly welcome to come back at that time.
All right, thank you for the opportunity.
We're tired of up. Thank you all for coming tonight. Item B, rescheduling of the LSIC meeting, which is scheduled for next Tuesday, March the 9th, 2021 at Summersville Elementary School. We need to reschedule that, and Madam Secretary, did we say anything last time about when we'd like to schedule that? Was that what you mentioned?
I need to get a copy of those minutes.
Oh, okay, here, you have mine. I
Oh,
wrote
okay.
something here.
Okay,
I'd like to have it back from you.
that's okay. Chris will get me a copy.
Chris will get a copy.
Um,
When would you all consider rescheduling that meeting? Don't everybody speak at the same time.
I'm sorry, guys, I missed a part of that.
Well, that was where you were
Was that
going
the
to...
LSI?
The LSIC is going to, we had it scheduled for next Tuesday night,
Yeah.
but we need to move it.
Okay.
So what would be a good time for you guys?
Well, let's look at the calendar.
We have a board meeting on the 15th, so you might want to jump down to that following week of the 22nd.
I can't be there on the 22nd. That's the only date I have a board meeting at the Camden Clinic on that date.
Would the 23rd work for you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How about the 23rd?
Let's do it.
5 o'clock, 23rd?
Okay, Tuesday. Okay.
23rd of March, 5 o'clock,
The LSI at Summersville Grade.
Summersville Grade School. 23rd at 5 p.m. Okay, let me go ahead and put that in.
5 or 5:30.
5.
5 p.m. That's our normal time. Okay. Any other discussion on that? Everybody okay with that? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to item C, which is discussion on the 2021-22 school year and 2022-23 school year calendar. Mrs. Gregory, and these are simply drafts. They're not anything we're voting on tonight.
That's correct. Dr. Tetrick had asked me to get a calendar ready because I think maybe ZMM and the construction company asked her to get a breakdown of what summers could be for this summer and next summer as far as construction is concerned. So the 2021-22 calendar has been submitted to the state. They haven't looked at them yet, so it hasn't been accepted or rejected. And then the 22-23 calendar is just one I made to show when school would start if school ends this year, June 1st. The governor had ordered that to be, so when school ends June 1st of this year, we would have June, July, and August. And they needed 3 full months of summertime next summer. So if we start the following year in September, right around Labor Day time, teachers would come maybe the day of Labor Day or the day before. These are just draft and tentative, nothing set in stone on either one. But if they can have, is it next summer they needed the 3 full months, so we can end the school year for 22-23 by the of this year, that we would end May 31st and have June, July, then part of August, then school would start September of 22-23 in September.
This calendar actually, or these calendars actually developed based on the planning team and the phasing that needs to occur for the building of the Cherry River schools. So because of the phasing that needs to occur there, it dictates the calendar for the county. And the planning team in their phasing said that this is the optimal way to get the building in and very little wiggle room.
Yeah, we still have to have 180 days for students, 200 days contracts for teachers. So that's just, I made sure everyone had a copy of that to look at.
So you'll be coming back with this more informal draft before we send it in?
Well, I have to get it posted on social media, that way so people can make comments.
And the architect's with us this evening, so this would accommodate the moving of kids from the middle school kids at Richwood, from the the units, pods, modulars in. We'll do one section and then move everybody this way and take those out so we can do the construction over there. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's kind of to accommodate that whole process.
Tammy, is there any, have you heard any talk or anything about extending this year due to so many days we've missed, or any special programs, or?
No, because we did remote learning. We haven't really missed instructional days.
And teachers have contracted days, so there isn't a provision for that. Only the things that we're planning for the summer school to provide additional resources and supports to students at that time get caught up, but that's being done on a county-by-county basis. And we've had a planning
And we are
team
writing
actually working
grants
on
for that.
But if something would come about this year, it wouldn't hurt anything.
Right.
Any further questions for Mrs. Gregory or Superintendent? Hearing none, thank you. And you'll get back with us later. Okay. Board, I'm going to ask if you would, right now, and I'd like to move superintendent's information, item A, construction planning architectural update, to this right now, and because Mr. Ferguson lives a good distance from here and he needs to get on the road. And I'm sorry I didn't do this earlier.
No, it's okay.
Didn't think about it. Is that okay with the board if we rearrange the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Mr. Ferguson and Madam Superintendent.
Okay, what I have this evening are some, just a review of each project, and then I have a couple of things that I've been asked to give answers to, and I'll try to get that as concise as possible. First project is Cherry River. Utility update. We worked with Mike Spencer of the City of Richwood, and we cambered, we hired a firm to go camera all the utility lines on the site, and just so you know, most of them are in pretty bad shape. We even cambered down to the city where they connect into the city lines, and we're going to work with the city to actually connect up, and we'll have to work out some kind of a tap fee arrangement with the city so that the work can be done, that the city can get that work done out of our area of disturbance there. The DEP floodplain submission, we met last Friday with representatives from Nicholas County Board, School Building Authority, Skanska, ZMM, State Floodplain Coordinator at Richwood, and their consultant, Thompson and Litton, at our office. We discussed the area of disturbance, the area of the floodplain versus the floodway, and the result is ZMM will hire a surveyor, which is going to be out there this week, and they are going to locate 3 lines on site, 3 areas on site. They're going to locate the area of disturbance line that was submitted to FEMA and part of the environmental assessment report. They're going to locate the floodway line that was listed on the survey provided by Acord Surveying, and they will locate the latest floodplain line that was issued by FEMA in case it has changed at any point in time during the last couple of years. And then we will provide a solution to any questions on meeting the zero tolerance in the floodway that has been requested by the City of Richwood. And we will, if there is a discrepancy or if there is something off there, we will provide a solution to those folks. They will agree to it, and whichever solution they agree to, we will take that solution, forward that on the chain to SBA and FEMA. I talked with a representative from FEMA today on the phone, and she indicated as long as we had a plan moving forward, and that everyone agreed to what we wanted to do in the floodway, everything was resolved with the local folks, that she would entertain whatever we presented. We also have to have a final meeting with some of the staff at the Richwood schools to confirm a few things before the documents are finalized. We have to have a final meeting with Rocky staff to confirm some issues there as well. And when we're completed with that, we'll present to the board for final approval the design developments and construction documents to go to bid. And then when we're real close to that, ZMM will go out with our team in the office and have one final review on site, just to make sure we haven't missed anything, or we haven't to confirm some existing conditions. And you can stop me and ask any questions if you want, or I'll just keep going, and then if you have any questions, we'll take care of them at the end. Glade Creek.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes, sir.
We are still waiting on cost estimates.
Yes, Skanska has to finalize their cost estimates. They're waiting on some foundation design from us, but they have proceeded and going to give us a cost estimate based on what they have currently, which is a pretty extensive set of documents. And we should get that this week, and as soon as we get that information, we will review it and go over it, and we'll pass that along to you once we review it. The foundation design should be completed soon. We're waiting on some soil boring information that Terradon is providing. The Glade Creek project, the mass grading package is nearing completion. We have a review set in our office from Terradon, and the review process at DEP has started today, this week. And that's a 12-week review process that they go through, and then they will comment, and whenever they send back their comments, we'll incorporate their comments with a final set to present to you. We're still waiting on DOH on the property transfer for those two parcels of land on that property. And DOH also owes us the status of the third lane in front of the school site. The gas line, the gas company has allowed us and the owner, you folks, to bid the relocation of that gas line in the mass grading package. They elected not to do that themselves because they couldn't meet the time frame on that project. And it's a pretty extensive amount of work also. So that's another reason they allowed us to be able to do that. The building program is in process. We should have another design meeting this week with the staff to review exterior scenarios and footprint, building footprint, floor plan changes, along with as well as the front of the school and moving the cafeteria. The Memorial Walkway project, we actually talked to the floodplain coordinator when she was at the office the other day in Richwood, and they have indicated they would like to keep that. They would not like to cut that in half. They'd like to keep that if they can. My only concern is most of that is in the floodway, and they are going to work with us on try to get that to work out. They have some issues that they want to work in the floodway as well, and I don't want to start a second H&H study if we don't have to, so we're going to try to work with her and get that resolved and get that out to bid if we can get that to work with all their parameters and our parameters in working in the floodway. So if she's okay with it, then we can keep going with that. And that will not slow that down. I was asked to do amount of students that we could get into the Cherry River School project. So I calculated it 2 ways. If you calculate the maximum number of students in the building per the fire marshal code, and what he does is he fills every space to its maximum capacity. Excuse me. So if you do that, that's what we have to provide. That's the way we design the building on exiting. So we have to be able to exit that many folks. So if you do that, you can house 3,800 students, actually 3,850 in that building. If you
3,850.
3,850.
Okay.
Now, if you design it, the maximum number of students per Department of Education guidelines, you can put 1,223 students in there. And that is filling every space as a teaching space. So it's quite a bit difference. Pardon me?
West Virginia Department of Education?
Yes, it's like 23 students for a first grade classroom, 20 students for kindergarten, 6 for special needs in some areas, that kind of thing.
And there's 1,223 students per West Virginia Department of Education?
That's correct.
Okay, gotcha.
1,200.
1223. So in other words, the gymnasium will hold 1,300 students in both on the floor and in the bleachers, but for gym class, it's only going to hold 50. But you're only going to have 2 gym classes in there. So,
That's K through 12?
yes, sir. Trying to see if I left out anything. I think that's about, that brings me up to date on our current projects and if anybody has any questions.
Well, do we have to go with the Department of Education guidelines on
Yes,
that?
sir.
1223?
You should. We have to design around that.
That's the law.
That's the way we design, that's the way policy 6200. You have to design for the fire marshal for exiting. And the way the fire marshal sees it is a lot different than the way an educator would see the building. So, and then we have to design around, the classrooms have to be, labs are 50 square feet per student, and then classrooms are like 20, I think.
Well, the fire marshal will include games and...
Fire marshal, like, when he looks at the building,
cafeteria.
he looks at the building completely full. Now, I did not include the cafeteria in that number. So if the fire marshal looks at that building, he looks at 700 and some students in the bleachers, and that playing floor is full, 7 square foot per student. That's the way, and the auditorium's full, and every classroom's full. Every space is full. The fire marshal predicts this building to be worst case scenario. So we have to provide enough exits for all those people. Now, in reality, you're never going to get that many people in there. There's just not going to be an event to where you're going to have an auditorium full and a gymnasium full and a cafeteria full and the students there as well. More than likely, that will never happen. But we have to plan for that. The fire marshal wants to see exiting for that. So
that doesn't include the cafeteria.
No, ma'am.
So that would add an extra.
That would add an extra at least 400 people, because we could seat you could seat all the elementary school and all the middle school at one time in the cafeteria.
And you said the 1,223 by West Virginia Department of Education guidelines does not include the cafeteria either.
No, sir.
Okay. That's just classroom situation.
That's just classroom situations, 25 students in a classroom. I didn't plan on having 28 kids or 30 kids in a classroom unless a certain class would warrant that.
Well, you wouldn't have the cafeteria full all the time anyway, so why would you count it? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, you would count it fire marshal,
Yeah,
but
right,
you wouldn't count it
right,
unless you
wouldn't
wanted to
count-
bring 2 or 3 classes together and,
You wouldn't count it under Department of Education
No.
guidelines.
No.
My point though is that 1,223 students is just the educational spaces.
correct.
The
That's
classroom
the
learning
instructional day.
situation, yeah.
That's like an instructional day. You'd have kids in the band room, kids in the art room. You might have kids on stage doing choir. You might have kids, 50 students in the gymnasium.
Well, currently, how many students are in K through 12?
I'll just try to calculate that.
I was,
I'm not prepared for that.
Mr. Henshaw hasn't, he's disappeared.
he always knows
I'll
that.
say he puts up his number.
What is meant by over the limit of construction?
There was a line established a couple of years ago when just before the environment, at the beginning of the environmental assessment, that showed the, I don't have a copy of it here, but there's for instance, on both sites, there's a line that shows a limit of construction where we had intended, they asked us early on to establish a limit of where we would go, how far would we push our limits of construction on the property. And we're not supposed to go past that line on either side. And it followed, in the beginning, it followed the line of the floodway that was established by the survey. So what we're confirming now is where that line is, where the original floodway line is, and where the floodway line is currently.
Yeah, now, in this recent flood rise, the water came up onto the parking area 8 or 10 feet.
8 to 10 feet horizontal.
Yeah, from the river. And it washed away underneath some of the pavement area. So what's that going to do?
Well, the contractor, number one, he'll have to fix that because he's not finished with what he's building. So he has to either replace that, cut that out and fix it, or he has to somehow, because I think it probably undermined, since all that was exposed down through here and there and it wasn't completed, he will more than likely have to fix that where he won't do that. Now, it hasn't been established, it's during construction, so it hasn't been, I can't attest to what it looked like before and what it looked like now, but what I've been told is it was not finished. So the contractor is responsible to fix that. That's his responsibility.
Why have they not been working?
The weather.
Not this week?
Well, it's very wet, it's very soft, and that, to my knowledge, that's what we're waiting on.
That's all?
That's what I've been told, yes, sir. There are a lot of so many rain days. It's after wet. When you're working with the ground like that, if it's too wet, they can't compact it. They can't do much with it. So a lot of it has to wait it out, based on weather. I can get a better answer if there was a construction meeting today, but I haven't seen a report yet.
So it'll still be a little while, obviously, after this enormous.
Oh yeah, this is still going to be a little bit.
Yeah.
As of today, you have 769 kids, K through.
I'm sorry?
769 is the current enrollment, K through 12.
And that's as of today, Chris?
Yes.
Now, is that not counting the students who are on remote?
That is counting the students. who
That's
are-
counting everybody?
That's
Okay.
everybody enrolled in the school. So
Okay.
that's even preschool kids, everybody.
Do you have a breakdown by elementary, middle, high?
Sure. Elementary is 190. The middle school is at 217. The high school is at 358. on that. That is the current enrollment, I just added up real quick.
Did you say 3, 5, 8 on that last one?
Yes, sir.
That doesn't equal.
765.
765 it is.
My consultants let me down.
So it's 765.
Should have checked with the accountant. I went to my left and I should have went to my right, guys.
Keep him away from that.
So what is the total?
The actual total there was 765.
Yeah, sorry, it's 765.
Okay,
I had old school math, I should have had it fixed.
are there any further questions for Mr. Ferguson or any further discussion?
That, you mentioned the wells here at Lake Creek. There's 2, right? Gas wells.
There's 2 gas wells, yes.
Yeah. And they want us, the board, to get a private contract to manage that, or?
No, the wells will remain, and we have to relocate the line between the 2 wells.
Okay.
It runs right where we're doing all of our excavation.
Now, I assume we'll be running those wells into the building to use?
We have to get the gas. We're waiting on a report to get that tested and see how much gas is a good gas, how
It's
much
worthwhile.
quality, and then how much there is left. How much they project, how many years will that last?
It would make sense to do that.
So hopeful. That's exactly right.
Is your plans for that gas just to use it for one thing, like?
Our initial thought is to use the majority of the educational wings as geothermal, and then use the gas for the high bay shop areas. That was our initial thought, but we're still looking into that. But a lot of it will depend on how much gas they project they can maintain. But the geothermal should be able to control most of the educational wings at substantial savings. The only thing is that, we talked about the whole school at one time, but that would require a huge field. And that's I don't know if we have enough property for that.
Now, the geothermal, is that from water or air?
It's water.
So those will be drilled after the initial leveling?
Correct. Yeah, we can't do that now. We have to wait till everything's, the mass grading package is complete.
Dave, does that gas on site, does it come out clean or does it have to be refined?
It may have to be refined a little bit. That's what the reports will probably tell us.
Looking at this enrollment of 765, that's this current year, correct? And what, as of today, you said. We have declining enrollment across the county. Do we see those numbers declining, Mr. Hanshaw?
Yeah, if I would draw, if you look at our classes for, say, Richwood Middle School, you have kids in the 70s and 80s, but if you look at our 6th grade class this year, then it's in the 60s. And so all of our schools, I see probably declining a little. I think I have a chart worked out that I have a 2024 projection issued by me. That moves, what it does is move the elementary classes forward.
That might be something we need to see in the near future.
Okay. So what I've done was take the calculation and figured out that between those 3 schools, Street, Richwood Middle School, Cherry River, Panther Creek, Gully River, and I have figured out what percentage actually went there from last year to this year. Last year's 5th grade class, 40% of those went to Richwood Middle School, so I moved all those grades up and made a projection based on that, and that gives me a projected enrollment for the school for the next 4 years, 5 years.
You ought to compare that to what we did with the justification document, if you remember.
Spot on.
I think we projected this year's number at 760.
Yeah, it's
So
on,
that
it's
was
on
pretty
target.
close.
Really?
That was surprisingly close.
Is your projection, is it predicted to go down from 765
Yes.
significantly, or do you know?
I don't remember. I know that I think when we looked at it, when it was going to open up, and it was, I think it was closer to the 700.
660.
Or 660, 700, something close to that. But, we were surprised that we got it that close on this one. You never know how that formula works, if it actually works pretty good, I guess. But
What about the Glade Creek side? How is it? Or this side over here?
we haven't checked it. I don't
You haven't
remember
checked
the
yet?
numbers on that. We can go back and look at that. That document's that's readily available.
Rocky, where you had the sandbag yesterday?
Last night, about 5 or 6 o'clock, Howard Dodson up here made sure there was sandbags around some portions of Sherwood Elementary. Yes.
Yes. Now, the work they're doing up there, when they finish that, will that take care of that problem?
Sure.
We're hoping.
And they're doing it in 2 phases, just so that it's not confusing. There's an initial phase that you see is going on right now, and then, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Ferguson, but at the end, at the completion of the school, the second phasing to complete it will occur.
Right, we'll have the first construction phase starts at the front of the school, works its way around where the cafeteria is along the riverside. And then that will develop the road and all that around in there. And then the second phase of construction works on that's why the calendar is so important, works on the interior of the existing building, portion of that, and the modulars move out, and then they work on that section of the building as well. And then the third phase is finalizing what's on the existing building that's not been done.
So the problem with the water yesterday was coming off the hill behind the school?
Yes, correct. And that's where we have to fix that ditch in the back, and then there's some grading around the other side and around the front that has to happen as well. It's pretty wet back there. And you can maintain that ditch a lot easier than we can in a bid package also. It's a lot of things the owner can do with that ditch that we can't formally go out and bid. DEP will not allow us to do that, so.
Chris Henshaw has the other.
I can share the document that I worked out tonight if you wish, Dr. Kenny.
That's fine.
Okay. You can throw it up there.
We are talking about according to the West Virginia Department of Education standards, that building, it would accommodate 1223, and you talked about 25 per classroom and 50 or whatever in certain spots. We know that some classes are going to be smaller.
Oh, sure.
By virtue of the fact that they're in special needs, whatever, that type of thing. But our current enrollment is 765, so we actually have in total capacity, 458 spaces for 458 kids, so to speak, for growth. Should things grow, and we hope they do, something picks up and we should see growth. We have plenty of space for growth in that building if it ends up being built as it is currently planned, the 1,223 students. So we're overbuilding actually in that building.
And that doesn't account for students who are taking career technical education.
Right.
Correct? So that doesn't even account for that. So if you account for students who will be traveling for career technical education, which we expect at 60% at minimum, but that's not even counted for in that.
60% of the high school students?
Yes.
Okay. Or middle, with your
High school, we're going to actually take it down to 8th grade. So 8th grade, I would expect 100% participation. Then high school would be at least 60% participation, and none of that's been counted for, which means the occupancy would be a lot higher even for your instructional day.
That's interesting, yeah.
So it's kind of small. I can go over this with you. Like I said, the way I came up with these numbers, I took the actual enrollment numbers. I took I counted 100% of Cherry River
Can you do
students.
this?
I don't know if I can or not. Let me try to make it bigger on my computer like this. I'm sharing it from it. Make it bigger, Kevin.
That's a good point, Superintendent. I didn't think about that, what you were just saying there.
Yeah. All right, so can you go to the right now, Kevin?
That's too big? I'll go to the right.
Yeah. And scroll down. So this is this top number up here. As you can see, I didn't calculate the elementary schools because I have no idea to calculate what's coming into kindergarten over the next 4 years. That's just a shot in the dark. We can throw numbers there, but it will be nothing more than a guess. And I wanted to deal with just facts. The facts are these are the kids that are enrolled in our schools. That's the number that we're working with. There's nothing that's a guess. The only guess that we have is the percentage of students that will attend Richwood versus Summersville. And how I came up with that number was I took last year's 5th grade class. I counted 100% of the Cherry River kids and said they typically go to Richwood Middle School. So then I took, so the other 2 feeder schools are Panther Creek and Golly River. So I added the total population up there, and I subtracted the population from Cherry River, and I had a number left. And that number is a percentage of those 2 put together. Okay? Do you understand how I done that?
Did you base it on the enrollment now and what percentage?
I based it on last year's 5th grade versus this year's 6th grade. So I used the exact same students. So I had last year's 5th grade enrollment at all those schools. I basically added together Panther Creek and Golly River, and and then because that was a total 5th grade class that had to pick which way to go. Okay, so then I counted 100% of Cherry River's 5th grade class toward Richwood Middle because typically they all go there. So then I knew the total number of 6th grade kids in Richwood Middle School. So I subtracted the Cherry River kids, and that left me with a number. Well, I saw what portion that number was in relationship to the total number of kids from Golly River, 5th grade, and Panther Creek, 5th grade, and that number was 40%. So 40% of those total 5th grade classes went to Richwood, the other 60 went to Summersville Middle School. So I carried that percentage on up with the 4th grade, the 3rd grade, the 2nd grade, and so for 4 years to 2024. So that's how I came up with these enrollment numbers 2024. So in 2024, I think the enrollment of Richwood Middle School will be 190 based on the students that are enrolled today and the percentage that went to Richwood this year. Likewise, I think Summersville Middle School will be sitting at 544. And I just boosted those numbers one up, subtracted the seniors, and just kept moving those classes up through the high school. In 2024, I think Nicholas County High School will house about 792 students.
That's just the high school?
That's just Nicholas County High School.
So, thinking that we're going to move in this building, hopefully in 2024, Mr. Architect. But it looks like we're going to have about nearly 1,400 kids in Summersville Middle and Nicholas County High School. Is that correct?
Well, if you add, I actually did a facility calculation as well. I added up all those for the facilities. At Richwood High School facility, guessing, and I didn't take away from the elementary school just to give them the benefit of the doubt, even though the trend has been to decline in population. So to give them the benefit of the doubt, I think the Richwood facility will house 664 students.
That's what we open.
That's every pre-K through 12, yes.
And that's like saying Cherry River is going to stay at 190, 190,
Yes.
190, and that's not...
That's not a reality that we've been witnessing, but I did that.
You're conservative.
Yes.
Okay.
And the Glade Creek facility will house 1,336, plus the vocation kids from Richwood.
Okay. So like 14 or 1450, something like that.
Yes, just
Just a guess.
just depends on how many from the Richwood facility decide to attend. And that's with today's students, and that's how I gathered that percentage of how our feeder schools split. So that's as close as I could get it. Somebody needs muted, sorry.
Are those people that are listening?
Yes.
I only see one possible flaw.
Okay.
And, you know, being a scientist and experimenting and all that stuff, you can't determine how they are going to decide on the new school at Richwood and the new school at the Botech. That's got to influence your data.
You're 100% right. All I can go on is historical data. That's the most accurate thing I can do. I wouldn't dare try to predict the future without historical facts.
Yeah, that's another variable.
So there may be students on the Nicholas County side that decides they want to go to Richwood, but there may be some that decides here. I just can only go from the historical split that's there. That was the only facts that I had to go by.
Right.
Trying to make a rational decision with seeing what the trends have been in the past.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's how we do other things. It's how we predict other.
That was. I'm trying to figure out who that is. Oh, it's Susan J. I'm going to mute you, Susan J. Sorry. Okay.
Well, that's, I mean, we know that that's not going to be the exact numbers, but it gets us somewhere where we can think about the ballpark. And the key thing that has been mentioned here tonight is we've got to keep in mind that some of the kids will be coming over from Richwood to in the career technical education programs during the day. So that's what I was looking at as far as the enrollment, I mean, the calculated enrollment for that school of 765 right now, 664 when we open, and a building being, by the West Virginia Department of Education standard, being built for 1,223 students. So I'm just trying to get in my mind, and we have plenty of space in that facility to house the kids that are going to be going to school there. And hopefully room for it to grow if other students, if some business comes in and happens to grow there, which we would hope it would happen, then they have room to grow. That was my point.
Dave, was that about the figures that you came up with when you all did
That's
your
real close.
surveys?
I think so. Clan.
It is close, it's real close.
Yeah, and his figures was made 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So far, what you projected has been pretty much on the money.
It's real close, yeah, and that's a, you know, unfortunately, it's a trend throughout the state, it's not just here. I mean, the whole state is losing enrollment except for maybe 1 or 2 counties.
Yeah, these are the percent change that I calculated. My calculations show that, I can't move my screen back there. I think that one is Richwood Middle School is going to lose 12%. Summersville Middle School will lose almost 8%. Richwood Middle School is almost 13%. Nicholas County High School is going to gain approximately 19%. Richwood High School will lose 20% of their population in the next 4 years.
Based on the trends.
Based on the students that we have currently enrolled. If you can see, like our Richwood Middle School classes are dropping down to 61, 66, 63 kids per class. So that hurts compared to, can you scroll up, Kevin? On the top of the document was the October head count.
I can't find where you're at.
Oh, Kevin.
The left side minimized, and the right side can't go.
It's on the wrong way again.
Wait, right, when I should have went left.
Oh, he's not in technology.
So as of October, we can compare our size classes per grade. This is where you'll see your losses at. Is right now you can see their current 6th grade class with 63 students. 7th was 74, 8th was 81, and the predictions dropped down and stay in the 60s. I don't see it really going much below the 60s anytime soon. I think that's where it's going to settle out and stay.
Well, we hope that there's a point where it does bottom out for the entire county.
Yeah. So I didn't, these top numbers look funny and this Federal County looks funny because I didn't try to project the elementary schools. That's just a shot in the dark. There's no way to do that. So that was my best, that was the only way that I thought that I could make an educated guess with the facts that we have. But he has a better method, I'm all ears.
We'll have to stabilize eventually. I mean, who knows when it'll be, but I mean, it'll balance eventually.
Well, I think the pipeliners basically are gone, right? So any of those kids that we may have picked up, that should be stabilized, I would think.
I think we lost most of those this past year. We lost most of the pipeliners this past year.
I mean, we've had a massive drop in enrollment due to COVID, so that may even make these numbers high. I mean, we don't have a chance of, I think this is our most optimistic numbers that we can achieve, especially with the Richwood facility, because we haven't dropped the grade school any. So, like I said, I think these numbers are optimistic as it gets.
Well, I think a number of kids we've lost from the flood where, they came in and people's moved out from where their house was down or whatever. I would think that would be done as well.
Any other questions for Mr. Hanshaw or Mr. Ferguson? Chris, thank you for sharing that. And Mr. Ferguson, thank you for coming and being with us this evening. And I will look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
If we might go back now to action items. Approval of the Cherry River Elementary mascot color change. We heard that last week, or the last board meeting from the principal, and they wanted to.
She's here.
Oh, okay. Did you need to say anything further, or are you good with us?
No, I'm good. I mean, if you do vote to change it, I would rather not change it mid-year. I just started at the beginning of next year, or not change mid-year.
Okay. And that was the recommendation of the principal and the school. Is that correct?
They come from the surveys come from the school, the community. I mean, I surveyed everyone, so.
And the colors would be orange and black, and you'd be the little jacks. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Are there any questions for the principal on that? Approval of the waiver, item B, to continue previously approved revised reentry plan along with moving the pre-K from 2 days to 4 days days a week. Any questions on that?
Yeah, if you want, I can speak on that.
Sure.
Tell you what I did. I had a very short time frame to turn this around. I had to be back in on Friday. So I went ahead and applied while I, within the time frame, actually received approval of the waiver today. But based on this board's vote, if you vote not to accept the waiver, then of course I can contact the Department of Ed and say it's not accepted. But I had to meet the time constraints that they gave me. So the governor requested everyone return 5 days back to school, 5 full days. Of course, the State Board of Education approved that. They also gave an exception or a waiver for individuals, counties who are doing distance learning. And of course, Nicholas County, we fall in that area. We have 696 students on distance learning, and our teachers need Wednesdays to actually do the Teams meetings with those students. So our teachers are working pretty hard on, I would love nothing more than for us to go back 5 days a week and our regular teachers be able to teach 5 days a week instead of having to do the distance learning as well, because I know it's pretty taxing on them, but we just don't have the teachers to offer the 5-day. I am looking for options. I have Nicholas County High School, Summersville Middle School, they both have suggested to me that they may be able to help secure some teachers. If we can pay for it. We have the CARES money, and I don't have a problem with doing that. But our challenge is not financial or otherwise, it's just lack of teachers to actually deliver the instruction. So I am asking this board to support the waiver request and continue with 4 days a week, and at such time that I can find a way to get us up to 5 days a week, I will definitely come back and ask this board to move from the waiver and go 5 days a week. I just think it's important. It's just so difficult for families right now in child care.
Okay, and I noticed that was a part of your plan, that if we do find and are able to go to the 5, then you'll go back to the state.
Yes, and it's actually on target with exactly what this board already approved previously, with bringing them back 4 days a week. So I just stayed with that. The only revision was pre-K, and Sarah Kuiper approached me and working with the health department and their regulations, she requested that for pre-K be included in that as well. So just basically asking to move forward with what this board previously approved to begin March the 1st, as well as adding pre-K.
Okay. Any questions for the superintendent in regard to that plan? Okay. Item C, approval of an elective course in growth and leadership.
Oh, that's me. Well, I'll go get the paper if you need it.
Who's MH?
Meredith Hoover.
So this is a course that would be taught at the academy.
Yes. We're pretty excited. She was able to actually, through a grant, purchase a leadership curriculum. And so the content standards and objectives have been provided to you. We have the opportunity, if this board approves, and so many boards across the state do approve, locally adopted electives. So when our students are at this learning center and participating in the leadership section, learning about leadership, they actually can be earning credit. So, like I said, the standards and objectives are listed, or the standards are actually listed for your review. But it's good. It's not a core course. It will be an elective course, just like any other elective.
Where would it be taught?
It'll be taught at this learning center, our learning center here.
Mr. Roos may not be familiar with the system.
I'm sorry, you may not. We have, if you want me to take a brief second, I'll explain that. When I was first hired here, we had in evenings, 3 days a week, 4 days a week. Students would attend 2 hours each evening for discipline issues. So if they got into trouble or got expelled or what have you. So it was very limited with the amount of support students got. And one of the complaints that I'd received was students being unsupervised. I mean, I had a parent come to me and said, you know, my kid's expelled. Yes, he did wrong, but he's unsupervised during the day. He's running the streets. He's getting in trouble. You know, these kids want to be expelled. They can be out, do whatever they want to do. So I came up with this plan, worked with this awesome staff that we have here to create a Nicholas County Learning Center and Cadet Leadership Academy. And in this academy, students must come 5 days a week, 5 full days a week. So they don't, it's not a break for them. And one of the components, and they get all their core academics, one of the components I've really started out pretty strong on, but then we lost Sergeant Long. He wasn't able to devote the time to the facility. He really did a phenomenal job helping get it started, but was to get the leadership part where the students actually exercise push-ups, learned about leadership, learned about good citizenship and things like that, to help make them make better choices. So I'm trying to revive that section of this academy because it will help students to make better choices and do better, and we've seen some really positive results come out of it. So we also have the youth, what is it? They come in for the counseling, so we also have counseling services that are provided to the students free of charge. So there's a lot of supports there, and this is just another thing that actually acknowledges and gives them credit for leadership.
And that's delinquent students.
It's students that have been expelled, or we actually have not expelled the students. What we typically do, and now everyone used to go before the board, now students come before me, and if they don't like my decision, they can appeal it to the board and for your decision. But it's been very successful so far. Instead of, if you notice, there was a report that came out, we were second in the state for the least amount of discipline issues as far as expulsions and suspensions. Our schools do not suspend students. Students are placed over here at the Learning Center for 3, 5, or 10 days, or if they're on track for expulsion, I set aside the expulsion, allow the students an opportunity to complete so many months at this learning center, and if they prove themselves, then the counselors recommend that they return to the school, and they have their meetings. Then, of course, they return to the schools, and expulsion's never implemented. So it's worked really good. It's been real positive. So this is just another positive thing for these students.
Yeah, this replaced alternative education where we had to assign them.
I didn't realize that when I read this, and I did make one suggestion that maybe there could be a unit in here for these students who want to go ahead with their education to apply for scholarships and fill out financial aid forms.
Actually could do that.
I did not know the type of
Yeah,
student.
but that's not a bad idea, and we actually do that with the students. So, I mean, we can make notation of it. That is an important part.
It's probably the only, well, it may be the only help they get from that.
Yeah, that's not a problem to add that because they actually do that. We can just make a notation of career planning, applications.
You say we might get the ROTC back more active in that,
Unfortunately, no.
we don't have instructors.
No, we are working with the Sheriff's Department. They've been wonderful to send an officer up here. What we found is we don't need an officer to stand at, to just provide security. We need an officer to show leadership, to work with the students and actually be in the classroom doing things. And that's been a very positive model. We even previously had the prosecutor, Jonathan Sweeney, and the sheriff came up a couple of years ago. We worked with Judge Rowe when this started. And anyway, they went up, did push-ups, challenged the kids, gave them pep talks. I mean, just a lot of positive things. So when this was first developed, and I forget that Mr. Reese wasn't on the board when this, first started, but like I said, I did it in conjunction with the circuit court judge and
Health and Human Services.
Health and Human Services, all of them. Everybody was on board with it.
And it does meet the needs of kids all the way from elementary through high school, correct?
Yes, it is a K through 12.
What happens if they enroll in the program and then they transition back into their school?
That's fine. They can get credit, partial credit for their electives. That type of thing happens. We also have what's called a tranquility room. So instead of having students who are anxious or have a lot of anxiety issues and we're unable to come to school, we now have a tranquility room, and we have 6 to 8 students. Instead of staying home, they actually come to this school. They stay in this room. I'll have to take you into a walkthrough. It's just a very relaxed atmosphere, working one-on-one with these students, and we've been able to successfully transition almost everyone back into the school.
We have a staff over there, correct?
Yes,
We have
yes.
teachers,
it's-
and we have
They're,
counseling.
yes, our staff over there, they're very, very good. They have a lot on their plates. They stay pretty busy. Because of COVID this year and the population's dropped drastically over there, so they've actually kind of reinvented themselves some, and students who were in jeopardy of failing, high-risk students who were not in trouble, we gave them the options to go over and actually work one-on-one with teachers, and that was a way that they've kind of helped to provide additional supports to students.
But you have to put them back into the original environment eventually. So how much, do you have a lot of people coming back or?
Repeat, we do not.
Good.
Let me tell you one of the things that we're doing that I'm really proud of. We have, if someone is caught with marijuana on them, automatically they have to drug test every month that they're over there. They have to drug test. And we educate them about drugs. They have drug counseling and things like that. So we give them an opportunity, if they're clean for an extended amount of time, and they've done everything they're supposed to do, that they're able to work their way, depends on what the offense is, of course, they're able to work their way back into the school. Instead of just being out for a year, not having any support, not having any services, could do drugs every day. We actually drug test them. And that's one of the agreements.
I think we're doing a lot for our kids over there, and we're saving a lot of kids and getting them educated, getting them through high school. It does provide, we've gotten kids to complete high school, their credits over there so that they could successfully graduate, that type of thing.
Dr. Payne actually toured the facility, he and Mr. Perry, right after we started it, and he was impressed, and he had planned to go to the legislature and have it looked at as a model. I'm not really sure what happened, probably got too many irons in the fire, but he was pretty impressed with the facility, and he couldn't believe how quiet, how respectful, how everything was being ran. So I think we're on the right track. We're trying to do the right thing for kids.
And to answer, the way I understand Mr. Moose's question, they're assigned a semester for a year, or in minor cases, maybe a half of a semester.
Could be 3 days, could be 5 days, could be 10 days. And it could be, like you said, it could be a semester, it could be, and one of the other things, parents had to provide transportation for the students in those evenings, which was very, very difficult for parents when they had the evening school. Now we have rules and with the bus drivers that those kids ride the bus and they have to be seated on the front seat, and of course if they don't behave themselves there, it's not an automatic that they get to ride the bus. They're evaluated. If they're not if we think that they can be good, we'll give them a chance to ride the bus, and that keeps the hardship off of parents.
But it's not evening anymore, is that correct?
No, it's all day long, just like everyone else.
Regular?
We
Okay.
provide transportation
We provide
to the school from all over the county, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
And food, and we had everything over there. It's full service. But it's no longer just I can just sleep in bed and do what I want to do.
Mr. Moose, that is located in the science building here on this campus. It used to be the old science building for the old Nicholas County High School. 2 buildings over on this campus. Are there any further questions for the superintendent in regard to the elective course for the leadership program? Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Is there a motion to approve action items A, B, and C as presented this evening?
So moved.
Mr. Abbott moves. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Mr. Berry seconds. Any further discussion in regard to the action items listed this evening? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Madam Secretary, motion passes unanimously. Consent items, Mr. Hess, Finance. While he's coming up, at your table, you have an additional payment of current invoices sheet. It's a very short one, so we'll be considering that as part of the finance this evening. What's that?
He's always very short. Right?
Yeah.
He better be.
Well, I don't have much today, just 2 items, actually, payment of current invoices, if you have any questions. And like Dr. Panic said, I did hand out a couple of utilities and 1 travel check that we cut today. That I believe the utilities will be due before our next meeting.
Any questions in regard to the payment of current invoices?
Item 2 is payroll discussion. I just wanted to apprise you guys of technicality we had last week. As far as I know, it's the first time and since I've been here that we missed paying our people on the correct day. It's really no one's fault, just through the processes of upgrading software with our bank and switching over to a different software and learning those procedures. We had it loaded 2 days early, and then come the day of, people started calling it like 6:30 in the morning. They didn't have their check, and so we started looking into it and realized there was a step there that was new that we had not done, and so we worked frantically trying to get that through the system and get it loaded. Realized that wasn't going to work, and so then we were going to try to ACH everybody's check into their account that day at 5 o'clock. However, the banking system has a very strict 11 o'clock rule, and if you're not done by 11 o'clock, it doesn't get posted that day. So we worked right up to the very last second trying to get that in there. Still unsuccessful. So it did post the very next day, and that's unfortunately, we hate that, but just a learning curve on the new software, basically.
So basically just 1 day late?
1 day late, yes. And I've worked it out with, I've only had a few people call that incurred any charges due to non-sufficient funds as a result of the checks not being there on the 25th. And I've worked it out with most of the banks that they're going to waive those fees that anyone that may have incurred as a result of that. So let's just kind of bring you up to speed what happened last week for payroll.
Any questions for Mr. Hess on finance items?
You're doing a good job.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Hess. Thank you. Item B there, just out-of-state travel request. I think we're going to start seeing those increases. Things relax a little bit. We have people going to an SREB Making Schools Work Conference, July 5th through the 9th. It's in Nashville, and there's about 16 people going, and those are listed there. Half of them are funded by Nicholas County Career and Technical Education. The other half are funded through special projects. Any questions in regard to the out-of-state travel?
What's SREB?
Southern Regional Education Board. Is there a motion to approve consent items A and B as presented?
Make the motion.
Mr. Berry moves. Is there a second?
Really? Payroll.
What?
Payroll.
That was what Kevin just did.
That was Kevin. Who did? Mr. Eving, did you second? Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Berry and seconded by Mr. Amy to approve consent items A and B. Any further discussion in regard to consent items? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Madam Secretary, the motion passes unanimously. Mrs. Atkins, Madam Superintendent, board members, is there a need for an executive session in regard to personnel matters?
No.
Okay. Mrs. Atkins.
Yes, you have before you the updated personnel agenda. A copy has been provided to the press. The changes are in red and they're highlighted because we did amend on Thursday, but I will read I'll read the agenda. Under service, we have Catherine Ward, employee in the position of halftime cook at Cherry River Elementary School, effective March 2nd, 2021. Mary Queener, employee in the position of one-on-one transportation instruction aide 2 for a student currently enrolled at Zela Elementary School, effective March 2nd, 2021. Lisa Flanagan, employee in the position of one-on-one transportation instruction aide 2 for a student currently enrolled in Summersville Middle School, effective March 2nd, 2021. Under professional extracurricular, you're striking the graduation coach at Richwood High School. We've posted that several times and have yet to have an applicant. I will be reposting that tomorrow. Edward Riffle, employee in the position of temporary support staff softball at Summersville Middle School, effective upon completion of any applicable WVDE and/or WVSSAC requirements. Craig Brake, employee in the position of assistant track coach at Nicholas County High School, effective upon completion of any applicable WVDE or WVSSAC requirements. And Tim Deal, employee in the position of assistant track coach at Richwood Middle School, also effective upon the completion of any applicable WVDE and/or WVSSAC requirements. Under consent, remove Carl Bradshaw from the substitute list. Permission to post and hire the following summer boost positions to be paid for with federal funds. The summer boost site coordinator at Summersville Elementary School, Golly River Elementary School, and Cherry River Elementary School. Permission to post and hire an Early Steps Family and Community Engagement Specialist to be paid for with Title I and Save the Children funds. This had been previously, you'd approved this previously as a service position, and we've had quite a bit of turnover there. And of course, the service hiring rules, you don't have as much flexibility with that, so that's going to be reposted as a professional position, and that's why it's on the agenda. Permission to post and hire 2 summer general maintenance truck drivers, and permission to post and hire 4 summer painters. We typically hire those every year. Approve the following voluntary transfers recommended by the principal pursuant to West Virginia Code 18A-4-7AU to be effective with the start of the 2021-2022 school year. Janice Bain from 2nd grade to PK at Golly River Elementary School. Emily Pryor from 3rd grade to kindergarten at Golly River Elementary School. Katie Elliott from 3rd grade to 2nd grade at Golly River Elementary. Lorraine Stanzi from 4th grade to 2nd grade at Golly River Elementary. Heather Miller from 3rd grade to planning teacher at Golly River Elementary. And Ove Myers from planning teacher to physical education teacher at Golly River Elementary. On page 3, you have some leave requests by employees. I will not read those aloud to protect the privacy of our employees.
What's a graduation coach? Maybe if we define that, we could get somebody to take it.
Well, it's defined in the job posting. We hire those typically every year. They assist students to make sure they've got the credits that they need to graduate. Motivator, help them get into school. CC Lester did a fantastic job of it.
Gene Sparks does a great job.
Gene Sparks does it over here.
We used to call those guidance counselors, didn't we?
No, that's not a guidance counselor position. This is something more.
This is a professional extracurricular position.
It's paid through the results-driven priorities grant that's written through the Office of Special Education each
What
year.
degree category does it require?
It doesn't require any. It's a professional extracurricular position.
Okay.
17 and a half hours a week.
They can go out to the homes. It's just a real motivator, and it's important to have. And like I said, we've had some fantastic ones. And we have them in all the secondary schools, and typically we have one at Richwood. CC Lester held that job before, but he didn't return this year because of COVID. So it's just been a matter of filling it this year.
The pay is posted on
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Who's going to be teaching 3rd grade at Golly River? You've got 3 people, 3 3rd grade teachers transferring somewhere.
Well, we have some vacancies there, so what she's done is just shift people. We're going to be eliminating 1 3rd grade there this year. Because that's a vacancy, that'll make everybody's life easier, and then we'll probably end up posting those positions. Because we've had 2nd grade there posted for a while. So what this statute does is allow principals to move people around where they think they can be more effective, or if there's a vacancy in the building. So, it could be that somebody in that building just preferred 2nd grade to 3rd grade, And it's agreed between the teacher and the principal.
Yeah.
Didn't that happen at First River last year?
Yeah.
First River did that last
They
year.
do it everywhere.
We
Yes.
move people around all the time. If there's a vacancy in the school,
And we're not really moving them. It's
No,
the,
right.
it's the teacher and the
The
principal.
The teacher
working
and the
it out.
principal, yeah, so there's a thing that the principal signs, that the teacher signs, that they return to me before I put it on the agenda.
So all those third grade positions are now going to be open?
2 of them, I believe, and I would have to go look at my list to be able to tell you for sure. I'll know once I update the employee list after tonight. I can get that to you.
We want some good ones in that third grade.
Yeah,
It's important.
yeah.
Any further questions from Mrs. Atkins regarding personnel? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the personnel agenda as presented this evening?
So moved.
Mr. Amick moves. Is there a second to the motion?
Well, if we're not going to second, I'll second it too.
Mr. Berry, second.
I'm trying to second it.
Okay. Is there any further discussion in regard to the personnel agenda that was presented this evening? We have a first, and we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Madam Secretary, the motion passes unanimously. We've done item 9 this evening. Item 10, reports, the SESC. We did have a meeting, and we just conducted general business for the Southern Educational Consortium, Southeastern School Consortium. And we heard presentations from 2 vendors, one on roofing projects and the other on curriculum. And I think we've shared those with the appropriate people that needed to hear from those particular presentations. But it's basically all we did, and we'll meet again later this month. Mrs. Kaufman, are you Bright Horizons, anything on that?
No, we had a meeting, but it was just pretty much basic, taking care of business.
Okay. Item 11, delegations, Madam Secretary.
No, sir.
Okay. Item 12, items for future agendas.
Oh, second.
I just need to make sure that this board's aware that I posted a notice today for a Wednesday meeting, special meeting at 2 o'clock. At that time, I would like to present to you a proposal to purchase a right-of-way that extends across the Glade Creek property.
Madam Superintendent, that is Wednesday
At 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, and that is here at the board office. Let's see.
This week.
This week.
The 3rd, yes. Well, in that agenda, it just calls for the proposal that I plan to present to you, as well as a payment of invoices, which would authorize me to pay, for us to issue payment if this board approves of the purchase. It is noticed.
It was noticed, okay. The meeting's been noticed, so, all right. Wednesday at 2 p.m. here at the board office. Any other items for future agendas?
I have a question regarding agenda.
Uh-huh.
Our bylaws say that anyone wishing to be placed on the agenda shall inform the superintendent in writing of the desire to do so and of the topic to be discussed as early as possible, at least 5 days before the meeting. Are we adhering to that criteria?
I believe we are.
So that means that when I asked that last week that Chuck Rashaber be placed on the agenda, was it necessary for him to do that, to be on the agenda?
I believe, I'm going to speak now, I'll let the superintendent or others speak. I believe Mr. Grishaber was contacted by either the superintendent or someone in her office about, you had asked for him to come and speak, about his presentation. And he said he didn't have a presentation to make. He was just coming up to talk and or answer questions. And as you see there, they're supposed to present materials or what they're going to talk about to the superintendent so that she can be prepared with any responses that she might have to have for that. So we did, we reached out to him, said he didn't have a presentation. He did present any materials that he would be presenting at that meeting. So, Madam Superintendent, anything else?
No, that's correct. He said that he was here to answer questions, and actually he had never had a meeting with me. So as being the CEO for this board, I should be able to accept questions, ask questions, provide information to this board. And so on Friday, we did that, and that's exactly what Mr. Ferguson spoke about earlier. He told everyone that was in attendance, and the meeting went well. I think that we should have resolved to this situation soon. And again, just saying that I want to come up here and answer questions for the board. I didn't hear the board asking any questions. And I think that as due respect to me, I need to know what types of questions or the presentation, as policy says. And I also believe that if someone from the state is wanting to speak, they also need to work through our school building authority, which is our state partner. And I have no idea what someone else from the state may come up, or what knowledge or what information they may share. So we do have state partners, and they should work through them also.
Our bylaws also say that the superintendent, as secretary of the board, shall prepare and provide the agenda. Board members, board president, superintendent, staff members, or citizens of the school district may suggest items for business to the superintendent pursuant to policy. So it says prepare and provide. It does not say select and provide. If it's submitted in writing, now that's and since he was with the West Virginia National Flood Insurance Program, and he's their representative, I think it's clear what the subject's going to be. We had some controversial issues regarding flood insurance qualifications required of the city of Richwood, and the necessity of an H&H study with FEMA's endorsement. So based on West Virginia Code Article 18-4-1, which says the county superintendent shall keep the county board apprised of any issues that affect the county board or its schools, programs, and initiatives, I felt like this was an important issue that we should hear, and that he would have an informative presentation that the board should hear. And that's why I presented that as he asked, and the superintendent and the president refused to put it on the agenda. That's my statement.
What I've handed out there is a copy of the policy. I think you're reading from Mr. Moose. And
yeah, I've already got this. I've got my copy.
I would point out, if you go back to the third or fourth page, actually on the second page, it actually, the second page talks about agendas. The superintendent of schools, as secretary of the board, shall at least 3 days in advance of the meeting prepare and provide board members a carefully organized agenda and the minutes of the previous meeting if available. Board members, the board president, superintendent, staff members, and or citizens of the school district may suggest items for business to the superintendent pursuant to this policy. Business items shall be submitted in writing to the superintendent of schools at least 5 days before the meeting for consideration. Items of business may not be suggested from the floor for discussion and or action. If you would go back over now, that's the second page, go over to the fourth page, and sorry that they're not numbered. Under public participation in the meeting, it says there under item 1, anyone wishing to be placed on the agenda to address the board either as an individual or as a member of a group shall inform the superintendent in writing the desire to do so and of the topics to be discussed as early as possible and at least 5 days before the meeting. This would permit orderly scheduling of public remarks on the meeting agenda, which is determined at the superintendent's discretion. Now, this is a policy. If you look on the very back page.
Dr. Penix, that's exactly what I just read to you, both of those. I just read those exactly. You're not paying attention. I just read those to you exactly.
I beg your pardon, I ain't paying attention. I'm just reading them for further clarification. This board did not have a copy of that. I gave them a copy so they could read it as I was going over that. So I'm paying very close attention to what's going on here. Now, with that in mind, on the last page of the document, this document was just revised in October the 5th of 2020. And that was done by a committee of Mr. Mushu on that committee with me and the superintendent.
Well, I remember.
And we were the ones who devised this policy and passed this policy. It clearly states in there, the person has to submit in writing to her what they want to present to this board to talk about. That wasn't done, and the superintendent didn't put them on the agenda. So we have followed the policy.
It says, submit in writing the desire to do so and the topic to be discussed. That's all. It doesn't say talking points. It doesn't say anything else except the topic to be discussed and the desire to do so.
But it wasn't.
And we need to make sure that anybody that wants to be on the agenda is aware of that, because the general public's not aware of that. Did these people that came here tonight do that?
Yes.
They notified the superintendent, and the same way the people that came the last 2 weeks ago, I think it was, to make the presentation.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gershaver was emailed a copy, he was emailed a reference to this policy.
You said you met with him Friday.
We did.
Did he show a desire that he wanted to come before the board?
He was okay with this. He thought he would come and answer questions that the board may have. I spoke to him about that. And again, you know, I had never had a chance to meet with him. We have a state partner, so, you know, if there was ever a situation that someone wanted to speak on behalf of our projects, I would certainly want state representatives here who are fully informed of the process. You know.
I just felt like there were topics that we were not clear on as a board, and that this would benefit us if he were able to clarify. And
I would take the position that he, as a state agent, representing a state agency, would work to resolve issues through the architect and the CEO of the organization. That would be my thinking that how that should occur, and it did. There was a meeting on Friday that they met, discussed those items, and got them worked out. Anything else? Okay, future meetings, dates. We have an LSIC meeting. Well, first of all, we have a meeting this Wednesday at 2 o'clock to discuss purchase of right-of-way at Glade Creek. We have an LSIC meeting that has now been scheduled to March the 23rd, Tuesday, March the 23rd at Summersville Elementary. We have a regular meeting scheduled for March the 15th here at the board office, Monday, April the 5th here at the board office, and then Tuesday, make sure you note that, on April the 20th. The March 15th meeting will not be adjourned, and it will be reconvened by state code on Tuesday, April the 20th, and then we'll have another meeting following that, which will actually be the regular meeting that night. Mrs. Adkins, what about personnel matters? When should we expect any those to be coming out?
I hope to start getting letters out this week or next week, so that we have to give them 10 days notice for the hearing, so we're probably potentially looking at the 1st of April for those. I should have an update on the 15th when we need to schedule those.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, are there any other items to come before the board?
Well, no, you said on March the 15th, we're not going to close that meeting.
We don't adjourn that one, right?
And then we skip the 5th and go to the 20th?
No, we have the meeting on April the 5th. That's our regularly scheduled meeting. We can't adjourn the meeting on March the 15th until we have the final levy rates to enter on April the 20th. And that's by state code. And remember, we come back in and we just meet for a few minutes and we have a hearing, or we have the results of a hearing from the treasurer, right?
Yeah. I understand all of that, but the 5th,
This is
we're
just a
gonna
regular
open it and
meeting.
close it,
Yeah, we'll open and close the 5th, yes.
and go to the 20th.
And the 20th, we'll reconvene the 15th of March meeting, and then we'll hear the levy rates, and we'll pass those, and then we'll adjourn that meeting, and then open up another meeting on that day, which will be the regular meeting for that day. Does that make sense?
No.
No, I'm totally confused. Just be here on the 5th and,
Be here on the 5th.
be here on the 5th and
And
shut up and listen, right?
The
Okay.
fact is, that happens once a year.
It's every year we have,
It's the levy rates. You
It's the
just
levy
okay
rates.
that, but you hear about it one meeting and you don't close the meeting until you
Right.
vote on it
right.
the next meeting.
No, not the next, you skip a meeting.
On the 20th.
Whenever
We're
that
skipping
next
the
day
5th.
is. Yeah.
And go on the 20th.
That March 15th meeting will sit out here for a while, then we'll have the April 5th meeting over here, then we'll bring it back on the 20th of April and close it out, so that's kind of how that works.
Whatever it is, it happens every year.
Yes, it does.
Any other items for discussion? Is there a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting? Mr. Amick moves, is there a second? Mrs. Kaufman seconds.
These people don't start talking.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Madam Secretary, we're adjourned at 7:01 PM.